I've spent the last year digging through 100 of the world's most popular supplements. In this video, I'm ranking every single one, from total junk to God tier, based on real scientific evidence. This is the ultimate supplement tier list. Timestamps for everything are down below. Alright, so first supplement, calcium alpha-ketoglutarate. Now, this one has become quite popular as a longevity supplement over the past few years. There's a few studies showing that it does lower biological age scores based on these DNA methylation clocks, which isn't like very good evidence. And there is evidence in animals as well, in mice, that it might extend lifespan. But the other human clinical trials mostly suggest it helps with wound healing and bone density in postmenopausal women. So I do think it's good. I would like to see more clinical evidence about these aspects of biological aging, which we will have in a few years. But currently I would put it into okay tier based on the evidence right now. NMN is another very popular longevity supplement, and I would say it's a bit more overhyped, and it has disappointed a lot of people over the last 2 years, I would say. And this one is also okay. There is some human evidence that it helps with gait speed. It might have some effects on inflammation and things like that. And it will certainly raise NAD levels. Increasing NAD levels will be an important aspect of health span. Actually, NMN has been seen to extend lifespan in animals, whereas NR, for example, didn't. So, but NR has a bit more human clinical evidence, so I'd still also put it into okay tier. NR is better than calcium alpha-ketoglutarate, and NMN is a slightly lower tier than NR, in my opinion. Now, NAM, niacinamide. So this is another NAD booster that does raise NAD levels in humans, and it also has some skin benefits. So niacinamide is one of the ingredients in a lot of skin care, so it can protect the skin, especially against UV radiation. So I do think it's good, but yeah, there's more limited evidence in terms of its other effects. So I would put it into this tier here. Niacin, notoriously used to raise HDL cholesterol, and it does raise HDL, but it doesn't do anything else. Almost that it raising HDL cholesterol doesn't lower the risk of heart disease events. So take it for what you will. I do think that niacin is a very good supplement for a lot of cases. Very high dose niacin can have some effects on the liver function, but yeah, it's mostly the benefits mostly stop with increased HDL cholesterol. Quercetin, one of the senolytic supplements that could also have some longevity effects. Now, with the senolytics, there's no human clinical trials yet, whether or not they work in humans, or what's the benefits that we could get. So there's very limited evidence about their effects. So based on that, I could put it into the bad tier, but quercetin in and of itself isn't a bad supplement. I would just put it into okay tier based on the available evidence. The same with fisetin. Fisetin has been seen to extend lifespan in animals as well, but the human evidence is a bit more limited, and it's quite expensive. Just because it's in the okay tier right now couldn't mean that it could rise to good or God tier, but as of now, there's not a lot of data from human studies. The same with apigenin. I like it as a CD38 inhibitor that helps with NAD metabolism. It helps to increase NAD levels, lowers inflammation, but yeah, there's limited evidence in terms of other effects. Glycine, so my favorite supplement, I'll put it in the God tier, and glycine has been seen to extend lifespan in animals, and in humans it has benefits for blood sugar, sleep, potentially collagen synthesis, and visceral fat and methionine. So yeah, I think glycine is one of the safest and best supplements out there. Trimethylglycine as well, God tier, because it mostly helps with methylation and homocysteine metabolism. If you're a poor methylator, you have high homocysteine levels, then taking TMG can be one of the best supplements out there for you. And TMG might have some benefits for exercise performance, but my read of those studies is that not so much, because there's more inconsistent results. You have some studies finding benefits, others don't. So I wouldn't say it's an exercise performance supplement. Some people claim it is, but not in my eyes. It's mostly for homocysteine. Glucosamine sulfate. So known for joint benefits. or it's used for mostly joint benefits. It also has anti-inflammatory effects. It actually has skin anti-aging effects as well, mostly through the anti-inflammation, possibly some other mechanisms. So it's attached to sulfur, so that helps with glutathione synthesis. So glucosamine, in my opinion, is good. It's not God tier, but it's good. Taurine, I would put into God tier. There's a lot of human clinical trials that it helps with metabolic health, metabolic syndrome, cholesterol, lipids, blood sugar, blood pressure, and exercise performance as well. So even if you're not diabetic or with not poor metabolic health, then you can still expect to gain exercise performance benefits, VO2 max and muscle strength, for example. MSM is another sulfur compound known for joint health, but it also has a skin anti-aging benefits similar to glucosamine, so I'll put it into good tier. There's quite a few clinical trials that it does actually work. The same with chondroitin. Chondroitin has the least evidence for skin and joint health out of these two, so I'll put it into OK tier. I'll put it somewhere here before calcium alpha-ketoglutarate. Turmeric or curcumin. There's quite a lot of human clinical trials for inflammation mostly, so I'll put it in the God tier. Now you could also get turmeric from just the spice, so not taken as a supplement. The problem with turmeric is that it's very poorly bioavailable, so even supplements tend to have pretty bad bioavailability, and that's why it's better to use something like liposomal formulations or with added piperine, that's black pepper, that increases the bioavailability of turmeric. Ashwagandha, so this is interesting. This ashwagandha is mostly known for stress and sleep, as well as testosterone production. And there is actually quite a lot of clinical trials as well that it does support that. So it helps with sleep, helps with stress, helps with testosterone and estrogen, and believe it or not, it also helps with VO2 max. So it's actually pretty researched supplement, and it actually has quite a lot of evidence. It's mostly for this KSM66 ashwagandha, and that's why I'll put it in the God tier. Now, some people have claimed that it has negative side effects on their mood and libido and those kind of things. Now, personally, I've taken ashwagandha on and off. I've never experienced any negative side effects from that. So if you are one of those people who does experience negative side effects, then maybe it's not for you. But personally, I haven't experienced anything, and based on the other evidence out there, then it's definitely quite research backed. Citrulline, so this amino acid helps with nitric oxide production, so blood flow, and I would put it into good tier because of that reason. Thiamine, vitamin B1, it's very good for blood sugar regulation and energy metabolism. It has a little bit more limited evidence compared to something like glycine or taurine, so I'll put it in the good tier. Now, personally, I like thiamine. I take benzothiamine occasionally if I'm maybe eating a lot of carbohydrates or something like that. But based on the evidence, it's not going to be God tier. But personally, I would put it in the God tier because I like it. But based on the evidence, I'll put it in the good tier. Chromium as well has a lot of evidence that it helps with blood sugar regulation, even cholesterol metabolism, and body composition, so weight loss and muscle growth through increased insulin sensitivity. So chromium enhances insulin action on the cells, so you have better blood sugar regulation and nutrient partitioning. So I've even taken chromium in the past as a bodybuilding supplement, hoping that it would help with muscle growth, as there are some studies pointing in that direction. So I do think that it's a pretty good supplement. Melatonin, God tier. So I'm a huge fan of melatonin, not for its sleep benefits. Obviously, the sleep benefits are true, that it helps with sleep, increases sleep quality and sleep duration. But I'm personally mostly interested in it because of the antioxidant benefits. So melatonin helps with glutathione regulation, autophagy regulation in your sleep, and it's a powerful antioxidant. So I take pretty large dose melatonin a few times a month, like 10 milligrams, just for these antioxidant benefits. Theanine, so this amino acid mostly is used combined with caffeine as a nootropic agent. Now, theanine might also help with stress and anxiety and sleep for that reason. So I do think it's in the good tier. Rhodiola rosea, another adaptogen, and it has mixed evidence for VO2max and mixed evidence for hormones. So I'll put it in the good tier, because there is some evidence that it does help with hormones and stress and exercise performance. Vitamin C, now, vitamin C is a very simple vitamin. It's involved in a lot of things in the body, and it's super crucial. Humans don't produce vitamin C, obviously, so we need to consume it from diet or supplements, but the amount of vitamin C you need is quite low. You don't need like a ton of vitamin C. You don't need thousands of milligrams of vitamin C a day. Most of it is going to be just peed out at that point. So something like 100, 200 milligrams is well enough, and you can get that from food quite easily if you eat fruits and vegetables. So I do think vitamin C is good, but there's no evidence that it has any significant health benefits. Methylated B vitamins, I would say, is a god tier, because a lot of people aren't getting enough B vitamins like B12, B9, thiamine as well in here can be included. But just methylated forms of these B vitamins tend to be superior for methylation purposes. Ginger is quite interesting. There's evidence that ginger helps with weight loss, helps with digestion a little bit, but it's not very significant. So I'll put it in the good tier. Sulforaphane. Now, I am interested in sulforaphane, but I think that it's a bit overhyped in that sense. So I'll put it in the okay tier, similar to NR and NMN, that it has potentially some benefits, but it's too early to tell. Resveratrol. Now, resveratrol is known to be a longevity supplement, but in my opinion, it's more like a metabolic health supplement for people who have diabetes or obesity, because the human evidence suggests that it only has benefits on people who have metabolic syndrome, diabetes, obesity, or something like that, and it has negative effects potentially on people who are otherwise healthy by lowering exercise adaptations, lowering testosterone. So I would put it in the junk tier. Depends on if you're a healthy person, then resveratrol might be in the junk tier. If you're a metabolically sick person, then it can be good. So it depends a lot on the person. I would put it in the junk tier. Pterostilbene is a cousin molecule of resveratrol essentially, and it has much less evidence than resveratrol. So based on the evidence right now, I wouldn't be able to say almost anything about pterostilbene, aside from the fact that it has been actually seen to raise LDL cholesterol. Only if you take it with grapeseed extract, it's not going to raise cholesterol. So based on the evidence, I would put it in the junk tier, in my opinion. Now, it might change in the future if we have more clinical trials on humans, but there's no clinical trials on humans yet. Now, rapamycin is a wild card on this list. It's not a supplement, obviously, but it's a pharmaceutical. But the reason it's here because it's considered like a potential life extension pharmaceutical. Now, it has been seen to extend lifespan in animals consistently. In humans, there's no evidence for that yet. There's very little evidence about rapamycin's effects on otherwise healthy people. So I wouldn't be able to say with definite proof where it will lie. In my opinion, rapamycin has a lot of potential as a life extension molecule in humans. So based on that, I would put it in the gut tier. But because we don't know what it will actually do in healthy humans over the long term, I would put it in okay tier based on that. But because I like it, I'll put it in the good tier. Now, it doesn't mean that you should recreationally take rapamycin, but still. Metformin. Now, this is another pharmaceutical diabetes drug that's thought to have longevity benefits. In animals, actually, it's inconsistent results. In mice that aren't genetically identical, they don't find that it extends lifespan. So based on that, you wouldn't be able to say that metformin even extends lifespan in animals. And in humans, it doesn't do that either, unless you're diabetic. So it's more about counteracting the harm of diabetes and enabling to live longer, similar to resveratrol. That if you have metabolic disease and obesity, then resveratrol and metformin can obviously be quite beneficial. But I would say that even if you're otherwise healthy, you take metformin, yes, you will see some decline in testosterone and decline in VO2 max, as it's shown in studies. I would say that there might be still some longevity benefits because of the hardcore lowering of blood sugar that you will experience from the metformin. And based on that, I would just put it in the bad tier. It's not complete junk tier, but it's bad. Spermidine, so another popular longevity supplement. Based on the current evidence, it's only effective for lowering stress and increasing DHEA levels. There's one study showing that. Other studies or other clinical trials on spermidine have shown that it doesn't improve cognitive function in elderly people. And that's pretty much it. There's not a lot of clinical trials with spermidine. Now, the hype about spermidine as a longevity supplement comes from dietary spermidine, so the one you get from mushrooms, cheeses, vegetables, beef, those kind of things. So higher spermidine intake is associated with lower mortality, but it definitely doesn't apply to supplements, or at least we don't have evidence that it would. So I'll put it in the bad tier based on the evidence right now. Now, it's not harmful. Yeah, spermidine might helps with hair growth or skin health to a certain extent, but we don't have good clinical trials on it yet. Wheat germ is a good source of dietary spermidine, so it's more like a dietary, let's say, food rather than a supplement. You can just buy wheat germ powder and mix it with your yogurt or something like that. So based on that, I think it's like a good thing. It's pretty nutritious. It has TMG and spermidine, so I'll put it in the good tier based on that. Multivitamin. So multivitamins just have a bunch of different vitamins and minerals. The problem with them is that each multivitamin is different, and you can't translate the evidence from some clinical trials on multivitamins to every single multivitamin that's out there, because they have different formulations. But you can still make some general conclusions that, okay, if you provide yourself with these daily vitamins and minerals, at least covering some of the RDAs of these vitamins and minerals, you might have some effects. And clinical trials on elderly people show that multivitamins help with mostly cognitive function. Now, they're not going to reduce the risk of mortality, as has been shown from observational studies, but they might improve cognitive function slightly. So I'll put it in the good tier based on that. But as a generally healthy person, you don't really have a lot to gain from a multivitamin. All right, vitamin E, tocotrienols. So these ones have higher antioxidant potential than the other form, tocopherol. The issue with vitamin E supplements is that in human studies, antioxidant supplementation, including vitamin E, has actually been seen to be associated with increased mortality. Now, I don't think that it's something to really worry about, or it's very, let's say, quality findings, but I would put it into okay tier. Methylene blue, not a supplement, but a dye. Now, I think methylene blue has some benefits for people who have poor mitochondrial function, or they have impaired energy production in the electron transport chain, but otherwise healthy people probably not going to see any effects. I've tried methylene blue for a few weeks and I saw no effects, so I'm gonna put it in the bad tier based on that. But it can be okay for general use if you don't have health problems, and it can be good as well if you try it and you see miraculous benefits. So I guess I'll put it in the okay tier based on that, so it's straight up in the middle. Nicotine, so popular nootropic agent, nicotine spray, gum, patches, etc. Now, nicotine has cognitive benefits. It can improve cognitive function, but very high doses of nicotine can also be bad for vascular health and blood flow. So it increases arterial stiffness in very large doses, over 10 milligrams a day, and is obviously addictive as well. So as a short-term nootropic, it's good. As a general daily use, I don't think you want to use it daily. You don't want to get addicted to it, and chronic use might have some negative effects on cardiovascular health over the long term. So I'll just put it in the okay tier. Lutein and zeaxanthin, so these carotenoids, mostly known for their eye health benefits, I'm going to put them in the God tier because there's a few clinical trials that they actually work for improving eyesight. moving on with lycopene, which is another carotenoid from tomatoes, so it's more this red color. And in observational studies, higher dietary lycopene intake is associated with reduced prostate cancer. In clinical trials, lycopene supplementation doesn't affect PSA levels and other cancer biomarkers, although it might help with some vascular health. So based on that, it's not very effective, but the reason why people take lycopene as well is for skin benefits, so it can pigment the skin slightly, makes it more orange or a bit more red, can increase the color in the skin, I guess. So I'll just, it's not very effective for anything else based on the evidence right now. So I'll put it in, I guess, okay tier, because it, will certainly have an effect on your skin pigmentation. Beta carotene is pretty much the same story, that the higher beta carotene intake is associated with reduced mortality. So you get it from carrots, squash, sweet potatoes, etc. So orange fruits and vegetables. But in clinical trials, as well as observational studies, it appears to have no effect on mortality. So there is some thought that, or some observational studies find that beta-carotene supplementation is associated with increased mortality, but in the clinical trials, it's not. It's kind of a benign in terms of that. It doesn't increase risk or reduce risk, but it, again, might improve skin color and skin pigmentation, so a more colorful skin. So I guess based on that, I'll put it okay, but because of the potential increased risk of mortality, I'll put it, at the bottom of okay. So it's not something you really want to take. I don't think it's going to be harmful. But, if you want to improve your skin coloration in the short term, then that can be one of the supplements. It's not something I would probably take long term. So molecular hydrogen is an antioxidant, and these tablets you put into water, for example, or inhale it. Now, it doesn't have that much clinical evidence right now. I put it in okay. It's not harming you anything. It potentially increases antioxidant levels. So, or it combats oxidative stress, in my opinion. I don't think it's too early to say, whether or not it will actually have any significant anti-inflammatory effects in humans. Cocoa flavonols, so raw cacao, cocoa flavonols specifically in raw cacao, I think it's good because there is clinical trials that it actually helps with heart health and brain health. Spirulina. So algae supplement. Now, most spirulina is probably contaminated with potentially heavy metals and other ingredients that you don't want to consume. So you need to be very sure about the source. Now, spirulina and chlorella, there's some, let's say, evidence that might help with stem cell proliferation. I don't think it's good in that sense. I'll put it in the okay tier. Berberine. I think berberine is God tier because it's pretty potent for blood sugar regulation, and it's even better at cholesterol and lipid regulation. So there's quite a lot of clinical trials that helps with, weight loss, blood sugar, lipids, and there's even some studies finding that it might reduce atherosclerotic plaque as well, so arterial plaque. Creatine, obviously God tier. There's a lot of evidence for sports performance, and now people are waking up to the idea of creatine as a brain supplement as well. Now, the misconception about creatine is that it's going to give you brain superpowers or cognitive superpowers. It mostly works for periods where you're under some cognitive stress or cognitive dysfunction, such as sleep deprivation, concussion, traumatic brain injury, Alzheimer's, dementia, those things. So it's not going to exceed your cognition. Is going to bring you back to more baseline, or in that case it can actually also take you slightly above baseline. In the sleep deprivation study they saw that, but you shouldn't think of it as a massive cognition boost if you're otherwise in a good situation. Vitamin E, tocopherol. Now, this is considered to be like the worst kind of vitamin E compared to tocotrienols. So I'll put it in the bad tier, that is less potent. Aspirin, so pharmaceutical, NSAID, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug, and aspirin has been used for decades. The interesting thing about aspirin is that it's used for cardiovascular disease prevention. It doesn't appear, the latest evidence suggests that it doesn't prevent the initial heart disease or the first occurrence or incidence of heart disease, but for secondary prevention, so once you've had heart disease, it appears to have benefits of reducing secondary outcomes. So the issue with aspirin is that it can increase bleeding. So if you're an elderly person who's easy to bruise or easy to bleed, then it can be more harmful. And I would imagine taking aspirin on a daily basis, even as a healthy person, probably might increase the risk of some gastrointestinal bleeding or something like that. So I wouldn't say it's something that is wise to take on a daily basis chronically. Now, some people disagree. That's my opinion, right? I would put it in, it's not, I guess it can be bad in some cases, right? If you're at a high risk of bleeding. It's a benign at most, like a small dose baby aspirin, 50 milligrams, 100 milligrams. It's going to be okay. Vitamin D3, so I'll put it in a God tier because it's safer to have normal vitamin D levels than to be deficient in them. So that's why I'm going to put it in the God tier. Now, the benefits of vitamin D supplementation isn't that great in terms of, some health benefits. There's some evidence that it might help with testosterone levels, immunity potentially, but the biggest thing is just to get the vitamin D status high if you are deficient in vitamin D. But you don't want to neglect the sun, but you don't want to avoid the sun. There's other benefits you get from the sun that you don't get from vitamin D supplements, such as infrared light, UV light, and other things. Now, with vitamin D, you want to take it with K2, so keep that in mind, that isolated vitamin D mobilizes calcium that can be harmful in the long term, so take it with vitamin K2 and magnesium, ideally. Moving on with magnesium glycinate, I think this is God tier. It's one of the best forms of magnesium. Magnesium threonate, also God tier, so this is specifically for the brain, most bioavailable form of magnesium for the brain. Taurate, God tier. Malate, God tier. Orotate, I think it's good, it's slightly less good as threonate or glycinate. Oxide, is, I would put it in the junk tier, is the worst magnesium, lowest bioavailability as well, and potentially harmful for digestion. Citrate, so citrate is good if you have constipation. Citrate is good for just general raising magnesium status, but it doesn't have, it has fewer other benefits. So I think citrate is okay, but it's good if you have constipation issues. Collagen, I think collagen is good because the only thing you would want to take collagen for is skin anti-aging benefits and collagen peptides specifically. So we're not talking about regular collagen. So this collagen peptide structure is with different bioavailability and different effects. So that's why you see some conflicting evidence occasionally that collagen doesn't work, but it needs to be the collagen peptides that have been seen to actually work. Glutathione, so powerful antioxidant, people take it for that reason, immunity and antioxidant inflammation status. The verdict on glutathione, in my opinion, is that it's good in some situations, like if you have, let's say, infection, some disease, then it's good, but otherwise it's okay. There is the argument that taking large dose antioxidants would be harmful and might actually cause more harm. So I would put it in the okay tier for that reason. Vitamin K2, God tier, so it's a perfect pair for vitamin D3. And there's evidence that helps with bone health and possibly reduce atherosclerotic plaque as well. Vitamin K1, there's actually some evidence that vitamin K1 also helps with bone health, but I would put it in a good tier. K2 is better than K1. Carnosine, a supplement for primarily skin anti-aging benefits, that it reduces advanced glycation in products, so skin glycation that causes wrinkles, but it's not very effective. There is evidence that it can work, but it's low bioavailability and more limited evidence. So personally, I think carnosine is good, so I'll put it here. Whey protein, I think it's God tier because most bioavailable form of protein powder and has all the essential amino acids. It's easy to digest, unless you have some dairy intolerance. But yeah, generally it's the best protein powder out there. If you can tolerate it, then it's good. Essential amino acids, I think they're okay. If you're in a low protein diet, you will benefit from them. If you're fasting a lot, you will benefit from them. If you're eating a nutritious diet and you're getting all the essential amino acids from your diet, then they're not going to build additional muscle. They're not going to make you gain a lot more extra muscle. BCAAs, junk tier, in my opinion, because BCAAs, so they're getting only leucine, isoleucine, and valine, which is only 3 of the essential amino acids, and you need all the essential amino acids to stimulate protein synthesis. Also, leucine is the key amino acid there, but what they find in studies is that taking BCAAs alone actually results in greater muscle catabolism because you're not getting the other essential amino acids. So your body starts catabolizing its own tissue to get those amino acids from the other tissues. So that's why BCAAs alone, the only rationale or the only benefit you might see from BCAAs in studies is that it helps with muscle soreness and helps with energy production during exercise. So your body will convert the BCAAs into energy. But if you're just sitting there and taking BCAAs, then it's a net negative. You want to take essential amino acids if you're going to do that. Glutamine, I think it's a good gut supplement. Helps to heal the gut lining. Now there's some fear that glutamine can feed cancer, but you get glutamine from pretty much all foods. It's one of the most abundant amino acids, so you would have to be in a very low protein diet to avoid all glutamine completely. Now, yeah, the issue is dose and how frequently you take it. I don't think you want to take it like on a regular basis, but periodically it's a good supplement for gut healing purposes. Now, psyllium husk, I think it's a gut tier. Now, it's a food powder and a very high source of fiber, and there's quite a lot of clinical trials helps with cholesterol mostly. So it's one of the easiest ways to lower cholesterol. Just add psyllium to your yogurt or something, and it also helps with digestion by increasing fiber intake. Caffeine, so I'm talking about caffeine powder or energy drink, or we can put coffee here as well, but coffee has other benefits. Like coffee is gut tier based on the research that it's associated with reduced mortality and heart health benefits, brain health benefits, reduced cancer, all those things, the skin health benefits. But when we're talking about caffeine alone, caffeine powder alone, pre-workout, right, I would put it in the bad tier. Now there's evidence that caffeine is a very powerful ergogenic supplement. So it's amazing for sports performance. It works very well for sports performance. So based on that, yeah, it's gonna be good tier or even God tier based on the sports performance benefits. That people perform a lot better if they take caffeine, which makes sense. They're just angst up. But personally, I don't like very high dose caffeine supplements because for a regular daily use, they can be harmful. It can reduce your sleep quality, give you anxiety or something like that, heart palpitations. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of megadosing caffeine. So based on that, it will be bad. But because of the vast amount of research for sports performance that it definitely works for sports performance, then it's gonna be a good tier. That's not my personal preference. My personal preference would be bad, but because of the research, it's gonna be good. Aged garlic extract, I'll put it in the gut tier. Another very multifaceted supplement that has benefits for lipids, blood sugar, blood pressure, visceral fat, inflammation, blood pressure, I said, weight loss potentially, atherosclerotic plaque as well. So it's pretty much like a all-in-one supplement almost for metabolic health, for cardiovascular health, potentially neurodegenerative health as well. Ergothioneine. So this is a novel ingredient that's become popular a little bit, not that much yet, but in some clinical trials it supports cognitive function. Now the thing is that in those clinical trials they use very small doses of ergothioneine. I think it was something like 20-30 milligrams, and you can get that amount very easily from just foods like mushrooms, cheeses, and vegetables. So you don't really need to supplement ergothioneine. You can get more ergothioneine from just eating mushrooms and different kinds of fruits and vegetables. So practically speaking, no one needs to supplement ergothioneine, but there is evidence that supplementing ergothioneine does improve cognition. So I'll put it in good tier based on that. red yeast rice extract, most known for cholesterol effects. But, you know, the chemical ingredient in red yeast rice extract is almost identical, or it is considered identical to statins. So it's obviously not suitable for every person. It's definitely effective for lowering cholesterol, but because of the potential other health effects, I don't think it's bad. It's not going to harm your health. You just need to be aware. Maybe you need to supplement CoQ10 because statins can deplete CoQ10 levels. So just be aware of that. I think there's easier ways to lower cholesterol, like psyllium husk, even berberine or aged garlic extract, than red yeast rice extract, but it definitely does do that. So I'll put it in OK tier. Next, Tongat Ali is a very popular testosterone boosting supplement. Ashwagandha is definitely better. It has a lot more evidence that it raises testosterone. Now, Tongat Ali, there is some evidence that it can raise testosterone in people who have low testosterone, but the effects are pretty modest. And to be honest, it's a bit more overhyped, overrated. So I'll put it in OK tier for that reason. DHEA is another considered like a hormone supplement, so it's a precursor to testosterone. In men, it does almost nothing. I think it has effects for, let's say, stress regulation, maybe helps with sleep through that mechanism, but it's more effective for women, because women have lower DHEA levels to begin with, so they might notice even body composition benefits from DHEA, but men notice almost nothing at all, maybe aside from stress. So I'll put it in OK tier based on that. Lithium orotate. So there was actually a very recent study that showed lithium deficiency could be implicated in neurodegeneration and Alzheimer's, and there's few observational studies finding that lithium use is associated with reduced risk of dementia. Lithium in the drinking water is associated with reduced mortality and greater longevity. So that's quite kind of interesting. Also reduced rates of mental health disorders and reduced rates of homicide and suicides. So that's also quite interesting. So we probably should be getting lithium from our drinking water. We should, I don't know the exact amount, how much we should be getting, because high amounts of lithium can have some kidney effects, negative effects on kidneys, but we're talking about very large doses where people take it for bipolar disorder and mania. So in very small doses, like 1 milligram that people use, it can have mood benefits, mental health benefits, and possibly, let's say, it might have preventive effects as well on dementia risk in the future, but it's too early to say that. So I think it's good. I think that it definitely has like a mental health boost a little bit. Omega-3s got tier, so all omega-3s, krill oil, as well as algae oil here, or fish-based omega-3s, they're got tier because just the vast amount of research that we have about their effects on cardiovascular health, all-cause mortality, and neurodegeneration. So what you want to do is have just a higher omega-3 index, and supplementing omega-3s is one way to achieve that. SIRT6, one of the sirtuins, the only sirtuin that's been seen to extend lifespan in animals. Now there's some SIRT6 supplements, but there's no human clinical trials on the SIRT6 yet. So it's not bad. I took it. I didn't notice anything. In animal studies, it's interesting and promising. It's too early to say, so I'll put it in OK. NAC got tier, so perfect pair for glycine, and helps with glutathione. So with glutathione, you don't want to take the antioxidant directly. You want to take the precursors to glutathione, and that will enable your body to produce the glutathione itself. So that's why glycine and NAC together are better than glutathione alone. And there's quite a few clinical trials from a few years ago where the glycine and NAC combo, GlyNAC, help with a lot of health conditions and health outcomes like gait speed, grip strength, metabolic health, inflammation, body composition, etc. CoQ10. So CoQ10 helps with energy and fatigue in people who have chronic fatigue. In heart failure patients, it's also quite useful. And like I said, if you're taking a statin or red yeast, you want to combine CoQ10 with that. The evidence about exercise performance is more limited. I haven't seen any compelling evidence that it will help with VO2 max or exercise performance. But yeah, chronic fatigue, it certainly helps. So yeah, it's very safe, and I would put it in a good tier, but something tempts me to put it in the okay tier, but I'll put it in the good tier. Next we have PQQ, another mitochondrial supplement, and it's antioxidant as well, similar to CoQ10. Helps with mitochondrial function, but we don't have that much clinical trials on PQQ. There are few that helps with physical function in elderly people, but it's too early to say. It's more expensive than CoQ10, a lot more expensive. So I don't know, I will put it in the okay tier based on the limited evidence that we have. Hyaluronic acid. So there are some clinical trials that it helps with skin hydration and skin condition, but that's pretty much it. There's not a lot of the amount of the clinical trials about skin anti-aging are also so small. There's not like a ton of them compared to collagen that has dozens of those clinical trials. So I would put it okay based on that. But I think because the evidence is quite compelling right now, I would put it in a good tier. Boron, mineral that will help with testosterone by lowering SHBG levels. There's also evidence that helps with bone density, and a lot of people aren't getting enough boron from their diet, so I'll put it in the good tier. Next we have inositol. So I like inositol. It's helping with neurotransmitters, might help with mood, and it helps with blood sugar regulation, so I'll put it in the good tier. Electrolytes, so let's say like LMNT or just some other salt mix. Depends on the formulation. Obviously, some electrolyte formulations are better. LMNT is quite high in sodium, which is beneficial because you lose the most sodium during exercise and sweating, so you need to replace sodium the most. But let's say for daily use, you wouldn't want to take something like LMNT that's very high in sodium, or you're getting more than enough sodium from your food, generally speaking. So unless you are not salting your food at all and you're on a low carb diet, then yes, maybe you need to take LMNT or some other high sodium electrolytes. But average people who don't even exercise, they don't need electrolytes. So I'll put it good for exercise performance, okay for general daily use, bad for some people who are also eating a lot of processed foods and they're overweight, etc. So I'll put it in an okay tier. Zinc. So zinc helps with immunity, wound healing, and testosterone levels. Low zinc levels are associated with lower testosterone. So it depends on the particular person. Personally, I don't find much value from zinc myself, but I do acknowledge that it can be useful in some situations, and it is like a generic mineral. Zinc is very important as a mineral, but it's like a generic mineral. I'll put it in a good tier. For that reason, ginseng. The clinical trials out there with ginseng do suggest that it might have some cardiovascular benefits and kidney health benefits, so I'll put it in a good tier. Shilajit is another, let's say, rising star in the testosterone boosting world, and some of the clinical trials on Shilajit do suggest that it helps with fatigue and energy, and might modestly increase testosterone levels as well. So those are actually true. So I'll put it in a good tier. The source matters, where you get your Shilajit from, so you need to be aware of that. Ginkgo biloba, some research about cognitive function, especially in elderly people. So I think that it's okay. There's probably better alternatives to ginkgo biloba, in my opinion, for cognitive deficits like creatine, and it's more researched in that area. So, but there is some research that ginkgo biloba does actually help with cognition. Now, EGCG, you get it from green tea. It shows promise in cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and those things. But in my opinion, it's better to drink the green tea than to take the EGCG supplement, because a lot of herbal supplements especially can be harmful for the liver. So I'll put it in the bad tier, in my opinion. I don't think it's worthwhile to take EGCG, although we would need to get more research about it. Tribulus terrestris is the most generic testosterone boosting supplement out there, and there's actually no evidence that it would actually increase testosterone levels, so I'll put it in the junk tier. Doesn't also help with erectile dysfunction in the research, so yeah, it's better to take Tongkat Ali than the Tribulus, and over Tongkat Ali you could even take something else that's more potent, like ashwagandha. Ashwagandha is more effective for testosterone than Tongkat Ali, but Tongkat Ali is better than Tribulus. Turkesterone, this supplement was popular a few years ago as a muscle building and a muscle strength supplement. Now the final conclusion or the consensus about turkesterone was that it has no effects on, it's not better, it's definitely not better than creatine for sure. I've tried turkesterone, I did notice increased strength, but it could be just placebo, right? So I'll put it in the bad tier based on that, the evidence that we have right now. MCT oil, so one popular way to boost ketone bodies. I think MCT oil is probably a good addition to someone's diet for brain health benefits, especially. I don't think anyone needs to follow like some very specific routine for that. Maybe you put it into your coffee. If you're fasting, put it in the coffee. It tastes a bit different. You boost ketones that have anti-inflammatory effects, possibly therapeutic effects as well for the brain. But yeah, like if you get a concussion, you get sleep deprived, then yeah, you can boost MCT oil, or you can boost your ketones in the brain with MCT oil. Now, of course, there's these ketone esters that boost ketones a lot more than MCT oil, but they're quite bad tasting and much more expensive as well. So MCT oil is a good addition to, let's say, someone's morning coffee if they are doing intermittent fasting and they're super interested in their brain health. So based on that, I would put it in the good tier, but it's not something, I guess I put it in okay tier. I don't think it's necessary. Like if you just fast, you just drink black coffee, you're also boosting ketones. And you don't need to add the MCT oil in that scenario. But it's okay if you do. Iron, so high iron levels are associated with heart disease and mortality and liver disease. So you don't want to have high iron levels in the blood. Iron supplements, there's no direct evidence that they would cause heart disease or something like that. But if you are low in iron, then you can take iron supplements with no worries. If you're high in iron, especially men, then you need to be more careful with that. So I'll put it in the bad tier because it's potentially harmful for a lot of... Actually, I'll put it in the junk tier because it's potentially harmful for some individuals. GHK copper, so it's a peptide, but you can also take it as an oral supplement. So in the context of low iron levels, taking copper or increasing your copper intake or taking copper peptide GHK might also improve your iron status through increased iron absorption and iron metabolism. So copper regulates iron metabolism. So if you're just low in iron, it might not be iron deficiency. It might also be copper deficiency. But in a lot of cases, you just need both. You might need both. So eating red meat, eating liver are easiest ways to increase iron status. But adding copper GHK can also be useful in that. But the main reason people take copper GHK is for the skin anti-aging benefits. And the evidence for that is quite compelling. Right now, it's mostly animal-based research. But I've tried GHK as a serum, as an oral supplement. The serum is better. So topical GHK is better for skin anti-aging benefits. So I think it's good. So I like it, but the human evidence is quite limited as of now. So I'll put it in okay tier based on the evidence right now. Iodine. So many people take it for thyroid health. Now, iodine supplementation is good during pregnancy, especially if the woman is, the mother is potentially low in iodine, so that can prevent, let's say, intellectual deficiencies. If you're taking iodine as a pregnant woman, but it's not, again, so in the past, people had the impression that you just take iodine and it's going to fix your hypothyroidism. Now, yeah, iodine deficiency can sometimes be a cause for low thyroid, but in most cases it's just calorie restriction or carbohydrate restriction that causes thyroid dysfunction or low thyroid function. So I don't think boosting iodine will really do it. And higher iodine levels actually can increase the risk of autoimmunity. So it's not something that you really want to do. Unless you're a pregnant woman who is low in iodine and your iodine demands increase during pregnancy. So I can't put it into the bad tier because of that, but it's okay. Calcium supplementation is associated with increased cardiovascular events. So again, I don't think it's a healthy thing to take for most people. So I'll put it in the bad tier. But calcium is useful if you're postmenopausal and you have low bone density, for example, and you're not eating any dairy. The easiest way to get calcium is just eat dairy or eat bones and these kind of things. But the other alternative is to take the calcium supplement. Beta-alanine, so potentially useful for sports performance by buffering lactic acid. It also produces carnosine. So if you take carnosine, it has low bioavailability, but beta-alanine makes carnosine in your body, or it gets converted to carnosine, and it might even have some cholesterol lowering effects, so I'll put it in a good tier. So exercise performance, potentially skin anti-aging benefits as well through carnosine, but the issue is that it makes your skin itch. So this is the kind of itchy feeling you get from some supplements. HMB, so most useful for reducing muscle breakdown for elderly people. It doesn't have that much benefits for otherwise healthy individuals and younger individuals, so I'll put it okay. It's good for sarcopenic elderly people. It's okay for, I'll put it good tier because the only people I would recommend to take it would be older people older than 60, 65 who have lower muscle mass or they want to ensure good muscle mass. Saffron, mostly for mental health benefits. There was a recent study that saw that saffron supplementation was seen to be the most effective for depression symptoms, but it was also combined with an SSRI. So it might be a good addition to other, let's say, medications, depression medications. I haven't tried it myself, so I don't know what would my experience be. But I see little value as a, let's say, otherwise healthy person to take it. So I'll put it okay. I don't think it has any harmful effects similar to ginkgo biloba that it might have benefits, but normal healthy people probably don't notice anything. Probiotics, most probiotics are going to be bad, and they tend to be just different strains. You don't know necessarily which strains you need, unless you do a gut microbiome test, and then you get specific probiotics to your need. Then most probiotics are not going to be useful. They're going to be in the bad tier. The only exception to it is like something like seed that's actually it has clinical evidence that it actually, on the specific probiotic, so it's the most clinically validated probiotic out there, but most probiotics are bad, in my opinion. It's better to eat fermented foods, lots of fiber and those kind of things, in my opinion, but seed would be good, in my opinion, the supplement. But they're not sponsoring me or anything like that. This is my just personal opinion. I've tried seed a lot of times in the past, and it's pretty good. Prebiotics, so these are like inulin and this chicory root and those kind of things. I think they're also bad, especially as supplements. Some people even can't tolerate prebiotic foods like onions and chicory root. They'll get some gut problems from them, and the prebiotic supplements would be probably worse than that. So that's why I wouldn't recommend in that case. Nattokinase, so mostly for blood clotting and reducing blood viscosity. There's some interesting studies that it might reduce atherosclerotic plaque, but I personally believe that it does based on the evidence that I've seen, but we need some more clinical trials to differentiate between the doses and see, okay, what is the effective dose. But I think it's good because it reduces blood viscosity, and people who have a high risk of blood clotting, young people don't need to take it unless they have heart disease, right? But it becomes more useful after the age of 50 for men, especially who have higher risk of blood clotting. And the last supplement is digestive enzymes. Now, Personally, I don't find digestive enzymes useful at all. I have no digestive issues, so I don't notice any effect if I take them. Now, some people swear by them that it helps them a lot, so in that sense they can be good. They're obviously not going to be God tier, but they can be good for some individuals who have digestive issues. For me, they don't do the trick because I don't have any gut problems or digestive issues. So I'll put it in the, I guess I'll put it in the okay tier, because if you take it, then nothing's gonna happen. And the last supplement I forgot to add, so this should be astaxanthin, not melatonin, but imagine that it's astaxanthin. Astaxanthin is God tier in my opinion, because yeah, it also has some evidence for skin wrinkles. It protects your skin against UV radiation and might help with inflammation levels as well. But otherwise, healthy people, the biggest reason you would want to take astaxanthin is for skin anti-aging benefits and reduce the risk of sunburn. Alright, so this is the list. As you can see, God tier supplements. My favorites: glycine, NAC, TMG, taurine, creatine, turmeric, ashwagandha, melatonin, B vitamins, lutein, zeaxanthin, berberine, vitamin D, magnesium types, melatonin, this is astaxanthin, vitamin K2, whey protein, psyllium husk, aged garlic extract, and omega-3s. And yeah, obviously you don't have to take all of these supplements. I personally take only 5-6 of these ones in the God tier, like glycine, TMG, creatine occasionally, whey protein, etc. So you obviously don't need to take all of them. I'm not saying any of that. But yeah, just this is my opinion of based on the research that I've done. I've spent hundreds of hours going through the studies, looking at what are the effects of these supplements out there and are there any actually human clinical trials. I tried to make this list based on the human clinical trials because that's considered the highest quality of evidence. And when there is limited evidence from human trials, I put it in the OK tier. So that's my rationale behind it. So yeah, there you have it. Thanks for watching this video. If you want to know the top 15 supplements that actually have evidence and you might want to take, then check out this video next.